Oh, yeah. It is Wednesday. Coming at you live roughly at the 2 o'clock hour. Sometimes we make it, sometimes we don't, and most of the time we don't. Robin Morales, RCO Network, coming at you here on a Wednesday live talking about the inner journey. It's emotions, feelings, the things that we go through as people and as business owners, but more about people. With me as always, there's so many words to describe her. There's just so many different words to use that are in a very positive light, but nothing less, I should say, than spectacular. Miss Mary Van Alstyne.
Hello.
Yeah, she's back here. Everybody, she's back here again this week, Wednesday.
I was like, am I going to have to forgive you for what you're going to call me?
I didn't call you Heather this time. I screw up every so often, but not today.
You only did that like once.
Or 4 times. Whatever.
Who's counting? You are. Forgive yourself.
Absolutely. So the inner journey is really about a show exploring a lot of these feelings and things that we go through as people. It came to me where I needed some help in kind of expressing and having a platform and sharing experiences and things with somebody so minute that they wouldn't necessarily burden those feelings. And, when I came across Mary, she's like, it's a spirit that really mirrors where I'm at in life, this exploration of feelings and emotions and really trying to understand where I'm at in my life is I have accepted my physical body. And I think for most people, they're on their spiritual path to find, whether it's God, heaven, whatever it is, that next steps. And I think exploring these emotions is kind of that pathway to that sense of spirituality. And once you have that embrace and control those emotions, you're here to do what you're here to do on this planet, on this platform, whatever.
Plane, platform.
To get to the next level.
Life existence. Yeah, there's so many different words for the same thing, right? Isn't it funny?
Absolutely. So hence, the inner journey.
The inner journey where we explore it all.
Yeah, so if you have any comments or questions, put those in there. I am so proud to say that we have on this show been able to acquire about 9,000 views, and we've hit 11,000 views, and really this show in particular. And we love your comments and questions. So if you go ahead and drop those in there, I mean, I would love to hear what you are liking or whatever you're doing. You're watching, but you're not leaving the comment.
Just be nice.
Oh yeah, we've had a couple that were not so nice. Maybe they're not
commenting because that. They were taught if you can't say something nice. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, absolutely. So today's show topic is exploring that idea of feeling sorry and apologizing and a need for apologizing. Do we need to apologize for our actions? I don't know. Sometimes. Do you feel like sometimes you hurt people's feelings and you need to apologize?
Absolutely. Every single person, I believe. Nobody's perfect, and nobody knows how other people are going to take things that, because we all have such different personalities, which is a whole nother show we're going to talk about.
Yeah, we talked about that too.
And sometimes we don't realize just us being a certain way. We have different upbringings. We have, different ideas of what certain things mean, even different cultures. If you go shake someone's hand in another culture, sometimes that is considered rude, and so I believe just because of all the differences between people, we eventually will do something that we feel we need to apologize for.
Yeah, but do we really need to? Because I in starting the show and just what came to mind just now is I was married before, and I had a lot of animosity towards my ex-wife. More because she decided to be with somebody else, and during our marriage, and in our culture, that's seen as horrible, right? Like, how dare you've committed to somebody per this marriage contract, and you decided to be with somebody else and break that contract. And there was a long time for me to really explore that, and I used to use that as leverage, right, to gain attention for myself. Be like, oh, my ex-wife, she's the one that screwed up. She's did this, she did all that. Yeah. But, if you really take a step back and realize all your actions that took her to want to explore that, I mean, you're just as culpable, I think, in those actions.
It's a very mature point of view on that.
Yeah, yes. It makes it easier to forgive, Yes, yeah. But it's exploring all that and figuring that out and saying, and stop blaming. There's so much time wasted in blaming.
Oh, yeah.
But so take a step back, and when we're talking about apologizing, does she need to apologize for those actions?
Here's my answer to that.
I don't know.
Here's my opinion, if you'd like it.
That's why you're here, Miss Mary. You're here for the shared opinion.
The need to actually apologize is based on your own need in order to move through the healing process. So if I did something where I feel I really wronged someone, I'm like, who's walking up behind me? So if I feel like I've done something to harm someone or hurt someone, do I need to go tell them sorry? No, unless I feel like that is needed for me to complete the healing process of forgiveness of myself. It's not necessarily, I don't think that we need to express it to the other person. There's no qualifications in this. This is stuff in the emotional world, like we talked about, being able to measure goals. Does it have to be written, or can you have vague emotional goals? And this is one of those things where it varies person to person. I don't always necessarily feel the need to go face to face and apologize to someone. However, I need to go through that process of admitting that I have hurt someone. So to me, that kind of goes hand in hand with apology, I mean, what if the person is dead? You can't complete the process by going to apologize to them. And I mean, you could, but it's about your process through this journey of forgiveness, self-forgiveness, and apology.
And I bring that up as an example. My example was my ex-wife. She decided to be with somebody else, so quote unquote cheated during our marriage, and. After that, the process, long story short, got a divorce, moved on, was dating, around. And one of the people I dated was married. I didn't know that right away, but as soon as I discovered it, I still pursued that relationship because you start having feelings for somebody. And it happened to me, and I was, I guess, contributing to somebody else cheating on their spouse, and I didn't feel bad about it. I felt bad about it and blamed somebody else for it in another capacity. But when I was the one contributing to that, I didn't feel bad about it, and it almost, in a way, felt vindictive. And that's my process of learning. The stuff with myself. It's just that, how could I in one place say, I blame somebody, but then also in another place do the same thing, but then feel okay about it.
Yeah.
So
it's part of a natural. Part of being a human is that we tend to soften or dumb down or write off things that are occurring that could be the exact same thing to another person as we would to ourselves, because it's not me, it's not the I, and that's part of even a deeper thing of seeing us all as separate. But that's a whole nother topic as well. I have a lot of whole nother topics.
Yeah, I know. We got to park. Put these ideas down. We got to park this on.
Yeah.
And in that process. So the feelings and emotions that somebody goes through is really what we're here to identify. So if this is resonating with you guys, if this is something that as a thought within you, please leave a comment or question. When it comes down to, I guess in the conversation we're having is cheating, right? Can we forgive somebody in that position? Can we move on from that? If there's people harboring onto those feelings for such a long time, there's probably something deeper there that you need to deal with personally, rather than some other person. Because I was married before for 12 years, and I could very easily hold on to that for 12 years because for every year that I was with her, I could hold on to that. Yeah. But at some point I realized, what, she's just a person. She goes through these feelings, and I think part of the journey of forgiveness is knowing that you're human, and you're going to make those same choices at some point. You're not exempt from cheating or doing something stupid. Mm-hmm. And I think where the apology comes from, and this is my own exploration, where the apology comes from is hurting somebody else that you love and admire. You don't want to hurt them. You don't intentionally do that, but yet you have your own desires and proclivities in life. Mm-hmm. Like eating chocolate or cheating. There's really no equation to that, but culturally speaking, there is defined definitions of each, but that's based on culture.
It's based on a lot of things. Everybody's individual view on something, because the truth is that an act is an act. Everything that happens. It's what we decide to label it as that makes it good or bad. Like everything just is, right? And every single person could take a different perspective on any situation. I know a lot of people that don't have the same view on cheating or whatever, a lot of different topics as I do. And it really is all about, each person's perspective and what they choose to label an event that happens, So, and then we're also talking about two different things here. We're talking about forgiveness and also the need to apologize, right? So it's kind of two different things, but tied into that is, even when we do something that as the offender, there is that level of forgiveness that's involved in there in order for us to work through the process as well, right? So do we forgive others? That's one question. Do we apologize? That's another question. And then third, do we forgive ourselves when we are on the offending end of things, Because forgiveness of others, it's coming out more and more in different books and things like that, that the forgiveness of another person or an offense that happened to you, and this is all part of moving out of what we call that victim mentality where everything is someone else's fault. But forgiveness is a huge piece in that, because we do not forgive, and this is a huge misconception I think out there. It hit me over the head like a ton of bricks. As usual, I need to find a new saying, but it's like we forgive to heal ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm not so when I forgive you, say you threw a rock at me and you hit me, and I choose to go through the whole process, which we're going to talk about, and then I choose to let go of it and forgive you. It doesn't mean that I'm giving you permission to do it again. It doesn't mean that I'm a doorstep. I still have boundaries. I may never play with you again, but it doesn't mean that I'm saying what you did was okay. It means that I choose that this is no longer going to ruin my life or sit in my emotions or cause future programmings or behaviors because of that defense mechanism that I put around you when I chose not to forgive. So forgiveness really is about releasing something that has a power over you, and when it comes to someone offending you, right?
So I'll give you a couple curveballs there, though.
Oh, God, okay.
So we talk about
let me get my mitt.
forgiving and not playing with that person again. But what if not playing with that person is like your mom or your dad, and they're a significant part of your life, and you can't necessarily escape them because they're your mom.
Well, that's all a matter of perspective as well, because, excuse me, I have a frog in my throat today that just doesn't want to come out. So
I got another curveball for you, though.
It all depends on on the case and on the person. If you have a parent who has an abusive tendency towards you, and you choose to forgive, and yet you choose to put boundaries around, and there's a lot of different things we can talk about putting boundaries around. Boundaries doesn't mean I'm cutting you out, because then you're basically just putting a defense mechanism up, right? It doesn't have to be like that. It's like, what's the energy behind me setting this boundary of I'm not going to spend as much time with you anymore in order to protect myself? Is it because you're really looking to protect yourself and honor yourself and honor the fact that these behaviors that are unacceptable to you are happening? Or are you doing it as a punishment to that person? There's that it's a tricky little fine line of why are you doing that? Why are you choosing not to play with the other person, right? It's not that. So say if someone was, I don't want to use a really aggressive. I'm not going to use the aggressive scenario. It just popped into my head because it's a little dark.
I'll give you a less aggressive scenario. Okay. So like my sister, for instance, my mom probably doesn't want me to talk about my sister, but I'm going to because it's my show anyway. But no, I haven't talked to her in about, I would say about 5 years. She's got some inner turmoil, some things that she's projecting out onto me. And I am choosing not to continue that relationship with her today. Because I don't believe she's a benefit, and anything I would try to do would be more of a deficit to me, not only emotionally, but a waste of time, so to speak. At least today, and there's some things that I feel that she needs to learn and outside of me. So I'm not going to engage and try to bring her in my life for somebody that doesn't want to be there.
Yeah, and if
but I still forgive her for being that way. But I love her, and I still want her to be in my life. She's just choosing not to, and I'm choosing not to chase after her.
Well, and that's the thing too, is you're not honoring yourself if you're choosing to chase someone down saying love me, love me, love me, when they clearly don't want to. You're also not honoring their boundaries either, you know. And it's just like looking at it, it doesn't sound like you're not having a relationship with her is you punishing her, like she's coming to try to love you and you're saying no, get out of my life. You know what I mean? It's what's the energy. I think with everything in life, I'm finding it's what's the energy behind that? What's the energy behind you doing what you're doing, and really being aware of what your energy is behind everything, behind every thought, action,
Well, I think the intent for me is to change the framework, because we're all given a script. We grow up however we grow up. We grow up with one parent, two parents, no parents, foster parents, whatever situation we're in, and we live that script because that's how we felt love. Whether it's distant, whether it's very close, that's how we felt love, and we play out those scripts in the future. And I feel like I'm part of this script with her, this game that I'm playing with her, that I'm willing to break the rules for, and not engage in that. And hopefully in turn she realizes that, and we all kind of come back together at some point. But I see her playing that same game. That's why she's shutting down and not really wanting to converse, because she wants me to play the game that she's used to. And I call it a game because it is. And at the end of it, we feel like we win, but at the end of it, really, there's no winners.
There's not, no.
Absolutely no.
In that game, no.
And so the other curveball I had, so we talked about hurting somebody else. So in the acts of forgiveness, it's about, forgiving another person. We'll talk about kind of that process of how to forgive yourself and some of the other things you could do. But what if there's nobody hurt at all?
Then, so example of that?
Masturbation. That's one word that's one thing that came to mind.
Wait, there is nothing that needs to be forgiven around that. That's all.
Well, in the Bible, there is. They don't want you. Okay, so I had to go through marriage classes, and one of the things that they talk about explicitly is not to waste your seed, right? So masturbation is wasting your seed. So in one cultural context in the Bible, for instance, it's shunned against you, spooging out everywhere. To be quite frank, they don't want you wasting it because it's God's seed, I guess. But yet people torture themselves and or make themselves bad that they're sinning because of this one reference, one book. And then on another reference, I mean, you can masturbate all day and not give a second thought about it, but then when you go to church, you're like, oh, that was bad. You go tell the priest or whatever. This is Catholic, by the way. This is all Catholic mindset.
Yeah.
But what if there is nobody to forgive? I guess it's a reflection on the culture.
It sounds like the forgiveness there would be yourself. If that's what you choose to believe and go with as a religion, as a thought, as a way that you should be, I would say really check in with yourself on that, for one, because I study so many different religions and so many different spiritual traditions, and there are a ton of them out there that are very contradicting in as far as that goes. But if you choose, I'm going to live this way and I'm going to choose to believe masturbation is bad, and then you do the thing, then you have to forgive yourself.
I was 14 at one point, and there was a few days I was sinning a lot, and
like every 14-year-old.
and every Sunday I would beat myself up for it, and I don't know why. Like today I reflect back, and a lot of those feelings are still there, those old Catholic
deep rooted. They're very deep rooted. Yeah.
If anybody feels this, if anybody has issues with masturbation, please let us know.
I would say if you have something that is tormenting you that bad, then take a look at what you're choosing to believe, to be honest. And I'm not telling anyone to go against their religion if that is your true, if that is your
we've
true
done
feeling.
that. We've crossed that road before.
Ooh, let's talk about the negative comment. And we weren't even bashing anything. We were just saying accept all things, learn all things, and go with what feels good, and pun intended.
We were called ignorant if we're being open and honest.
Yeah, and so because that's someone who had a very limited view on things. So, but if you need to forgive yourself, if you choose to believe something and then you go against what you believe, you need to really take a look at what you believe and why. And then if you choose that is the right thing to believe in and that you really maybe did something that was immoral or unethical, I hate referencing this to masturbation, but because it's hard for me to think that way that would ever be bad.
Obviously, Mary feels very positive towards masturbation.
But oh God, who's watching today? Let's see.
You got a couple.
No.
Mom, turn off the.
I'm a little off base now. But if you're choosing to stick to this belief that you have and you feel like you've somehow done some damage to yourself, then there is the process of forgiveness that you should go through with yourself in order to move on, or you're just gonna exacerbate the situation by taking revenge on yourself, having a resistance to this ill feelings, and then resenting yourself for it because you did this, and then you take revenge on yourself by doing it more or doing more things that make you feel that way. You just reinforce that. Said that's the cycle of self-hatred,
Yeah, and so I think with forgiveness, I'll put up the post. So what we want to talk about is exploring some of these things, but also ways in real life and in the things that we've done to hopefully rectify that and make you feel better, at least make you not feel alone in these processes. So the act of forgiveness, if I may post this up.
You may.
Let me go up here. The forgiveness process. So uncovering one's anger. So a lot of why we feel bad about what we do is because it is uncovering an anger within us. There's some sort of turmoil within us that's causing us to feel bad about a situation, a person, a thing, whatever we've done, whatever we haven't done. Because there's acts where we haven't done things that are just as profound as the stuff we have done. You know,
Yeah.
I talked to somebody recently that feels bad that their husband hasn't engaged in sexual encounters with her, and she's very upset and frustrated. She feels very inadequate, that she's not good enough, and she's very attractive, but she doesn't feel adequate enough that she's giving enough to her husband because her husband is really pushing her away. And there's these inner turmoils that we just can't control, and it surfaces as anger. It either does one of two things, and agree with me or disagree with me if you will. It either internalized, we blame ourselves, or externalized and blame the other person, or even if it's a thing or a topic or stress, we blame somebody else for it, like it's their fault.
Yeah. So that's the two options that we have.
Yeah.
Either go victim and point outward, or take responsibility and look inward. And that's what we always are trying to teach.
Yeah.
And like support is, how do we shift from going outward and blaming to going inward and looking? And whether that's looking inward to see where, why do I feel hurt? Why do I feel I've been wronged?
Yeah.
Or why do I feel like I've wronged myself or wronged someone else? It's that deeper look.
Yeah, because I think the easy thing is just to blame everybody. Oh, it's your fault. You did this.
so
It's your fault.
easy. It's
You
so
did this.
easy.
And then the hard part is to really reflect upon yourself, but to know, like, hey, I did something bad. But did you really do something bad? You have to really look at the context.
Good, bad.
Like if you feel bad about masturbating, Mary would say, "What's wrong with you?" But if you're going to church and telling your priest, that's very wrong. Very wrong, my son. You have seen the beyond seen. You must go take your lashings.
Here comes another comment.
I grew up Catholic, so I think I'm exempt from.
You're allowed to talk about it because that's what you grew up.
That's
in.
my experience. I mean, everything I did was bad growing up in.
Well, when I was younger, I used to make jokes about Asian, and my friends would be like, and I'm like, what? I'm Asian. I'm allowed to do that. I'm allowed to make fun of my own people.
Are you Asian? I didn't know.
I'm half Korean.
Oh,
yeah.
hello.
How did you not know that?
I didn't know that.
You did.
I just brought it up.
You forgot. You chose to forget.
I chose
I forgive
to.
you.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. That was my mistake. Anyway, so we talk about a lot of things. So again, that self kind of evaluation where you're at is that sense of forgiveness for yourself, and that's the harder part. So like me, when we first started the show, I was talking about my ex-wife. Forgiving her for her actions. I mean, we have proclivities all the time. How many times have you been in a secure relationship where you didn't check out somebody else? You're in a very secure relationship, and the hot UPS guy comes in and lets you check out every week that everybody's in the office is checking out, and you find yourself like, I love my husband, love my spouse. Those brown shorts are pretty tight, and your thoughts and your feelings kind of go that way, but then you pull yourself immediately back and say, well, I'm married. I could never do that. But then you have a proclivity to do that. Because if that UPS driver was The Rock and he came up to you and said, hey, Mary.
We had this conversation before.
I know. I do remember. Hey, Mary, if, just one shot, we'll go in the back room.
You got to do the eyebrow if you're going to talk to me like that. There you go.
We're going to go in the back room. I'm married. I know you're married. Well, you're not married. I know you got a situation. And if we just did this one time, I won't tell anybody. Of course you'd be thinking about it. I would think, I'm heterosexual. And I would be thinking about it because it's The Rock, what I mean? Yeah. But I think part of forgiving yourself is knowing that you're going to make mistakes, but it's all in context of culture,
Yeah, and you know what? And do you think about looking at other people as a sin? You know what I mean? Everybody, we're visual creatures.
I check a lot of people.
We're visual creatures. We look and see what's pretty. We look at pretty flowers. We look at pretty people. We look at pretty clothes. We look at things we love, and we're just seeing. We're just using our eyes. Yeah. If we admire and appreciate something beautiful or handsome or sexy or hot, I used to be very hard on when my partner would look at another person or notice another attractive person. Like I was at one point in my life that really insecure girl that would notice if he glanced away for a second. And then, you know what that was all about? I didn't feel good about myself, you know, and I noticed it just sent these rushes of like rage through my body. And thank God I'm not like that anymore. But it's, do you see that as wrong? Nowadays, I'll be like, oh my gosh, she's hot, you know? And it's like, it doesn't bother me because now I have that sense of self-security. So it's like, why do we think things are wrong? This is where we take that moment to go inward, look, and see why we believe certain things are right or wrong. Why do we label them good or bad, you know? And then because there's so much guilt and shame, and my mission in this lifetime is to teach people and strip away some of that guilt and shame over strictly being human and having human needs, you know what I mean, and having human desires. And why are we putting all these rules on ourselves about, I'm not saying go out and, you know, cheat
Sleep
on your
with a rock.
spouse or whatever, but I'm saying there are
The rock would be hard, though.
There's a lot of little things that we do that we hold such shame and guilt over that are little tiny beliefs that we could shift and have such a different life. You know, stop beating ourselves up.
Yeah, and I think the 20-year-old me, the insecure, the less experienced me would have felt insecure because Violet talks about The Rock. I mean, he is hot. I mean, that's a good thing. But you know, the 20-year-old me would have felt insecure about that and kind of, you know, delved in that thought a little bit too long, or let that thought linger a little bit more, and then slowly let it manifest into this projection of anger. And like at some point when we're arguing, be like, I get mad at her for like doing the dishes, but it's really because I felt insecure about her liking The Rock.
See how important forgiveness is.
And to be honest, I you know, I kind of look. I mean, he's very muscular. I mean, shit, I could do that. You know, it'd take 20 years maybe. I don't know.
No, right? It wouldn't take that long.
But it's a process, you know, and really not, and taking away from the fact that stop projecting and blaming people. To really start that inward process, you know, where is this coming from and why do I feel this way? And again, it's a lot of anger really comes from a fear of loss, you know, from my experience and what I've seen, that we're afraid to lose something. So we project a lot of anger, and sometimes we do things to kind of pull somebody back in. You know, we put people in buckets and categories, and we don't want them to deviate from those because that's what makes us feel safe and secure. You know, we tend to want to get married, but then once we're married, once we have that safety and security, it's like now we go back to being ourselves. Because of some, you know, that little title, that little certificate basically says you can't go anywhere now, you know, and we're so screwed up emotionally. And until we start really kind of breaking things apart and understanding it better, you know, I think we're in a better position when we start doing that. But it takes time.
It does take time, and that's why it's the journey, you know, and that's why we're here breaking it apart little tiny piece by tiny piece together. You know what I mean? Because it's going to be lifetime. It's never going to end. There's always going to be more.
Absolutely.
We're going to look back then and go, oh my God, I can't believe I used to do that back then. You know, it's like down the road, we're going to look back and it's just it's an evolving journey. That's a beautiful journey and a fun journey to be on, if you ask me.
And so everything we described is basically on this forgiveness process. So uncovering one's anger, why you're upset, why you're frustrated, and why you do things the way you're inclined to do them. But then there's the decision part, deciding to forgive versus holding on, because so many people hold on to anger, projecting on somebody else, projecting on themselves. And then once you decided, hey, I'm really going to forgive this person, start working on those processes, looking for counselors, looking for books, reaching out to Mary, because Mary's a wonderful person, but she's mine. So I limit her access very, very short periods, short bursts.
30 minutes a week.
$99.95 is the going rate right now.
I would say that part of uncovering your anger too is acknowledging it, right? So many times we deny that we're either angry at ourselves or angry at another person. We try to shove it down because we think we shouldn't be that way. Yep. We should be kind. We should be accepting. And, you know, we can get to that space of truly being an accepting person. However, a lot of the times it is us trying to deny this. So acknowledging it is definitely very, very important. I can't see the second thing on the chart. Deciding and what?
Oh, and work phase. Deciding to forgive and then working on.
Oh, and I was going to add to deciding to forgive would be owning it, like taking responsibility for it. You know, just like you said, when looking at where your side of the puzzle, like what was your piece in this, and let this may come before all of that, but let yourself feel it. Yeah. You have to let these emotions go through you. I wrote something on Facebook about it because I realized that trapped emotion is a lot of it causes a lot of disease and illness and stress and a lot of physiological problems, but a lot of emotional problems as well. It's because of the masks that we wear, and we're not allowed to be human. We're not allowed to cry. We're not allowed to scream and say fuck and, get angry, right? And but just own it, feel it. Like, that's the only way that you can truly acknowledge and own that you have that anger, either towards yourself or towards another person. You have to just, boom, feel it.
Yeah, and I think, and you identified something that I do on a regular basis, which is write. I write poems, and I write in a capacity where I can get it out of here, and then on a piece of paper, and then really ultimately decide whether or not it's going to resonate, explore how I feel about it. The one thing I like about poetry is it's a lot of metaphors. So you kind of explore kind of the feeling a little bit deeper than you would if you just wrote it out, straight. Like, I feel angry today. Versus, I felt this emotion, this deep fire in my heart that just was willing to explode and could not find a source to explore to. It's describing it that way versus just like, I'm just angry.
Well, yeah.
Gives you kind of a reference point to like explore that a little bit more. And I think ultimately exploring what that feeling is really what helps in that process. Giving yourself time. People seek counseling because counselors don't judge. You pay them to be a true friend. A true friend really doesn't tell you what to do.
They're neutral. They just listen.
They don't necessarily direct you, but they just kind of allow you to express yourself.
Well, yeah, I know you've been in some counseling and therapy, and I have as well. And, one thing I noticed one day when I was sitting back is like, hey, they never really said anything.
Absolutely. There's so many times I'm like, why the hell am I paying you?
Let me get it out. Yeah. But that's the medicine. That's the therapy. You get it out. Don't let it sit in there. Get it out. Read or write poetry. Write anything. Free journal. Sing. Yeah. Sometimes when I get angry, I put really loud, like, rebellious music on, and I like sing and scream at the top of my lungs. It's really fun. Yeah. I've screamed into a pillow. I've taken a pillow and punched it. It's like, whatever allows it to come out. Call a person and just say, hey, I just need to put the phone down, walk away. I just need to get it out, right?
Absolutely.
So those are all ways to allow these things to move through. And those are very simple ways that we can let them move through. It's not some big complicated thing where you have to have a ceremony, although you can. I've done that before. A little ceremony where you write it all down and burn a piece of paper, whatever it is. But get it out is the main point.
Yeah, and I think as we wrap up the show today, that's really the resonating thought for me is just don't let it sit there. The feelings and emotions you have, it has to escape you in some way, whether it's in written form. I wouldn't say the best way is anger and smashing things, but that is actually a way that's getting out of there.
That's why
it's not very progressive, but
it's not. And sometimes if it's something really, 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 really upsetting, it is a very, very, very deep. Just make sure you're not hurting anyone or destroying property. That's why I used a pillow.
Yeah, that's why you'll end up saying sorry more if you do.
And you'll then apologize to the pillow. No, but it is really good to get it out in a healthy way, like you were saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So if there's healthy ways or things that you do on a regular basis, put those in the comments and sections.
That would be great.
Anything that you can provide us to help us out and make this show better, go ahead and put those in there. Anything else, Miss Mary, as we wrap up?
Let's see.
She had a whole list.
I had a little list. I was just checking it twice. I would say, once you move through this process, if you need any assistance or whatever it is, like, we're here for you. And the ultimate key to all of this is to let it go, because if anger doesn't move through you, it's going to manifest in your life in bigger ways. It just exacerbates the problem to the point of it could cause illness, it could cause violence, it could cause all kinds of things. So let it go.
Let it go. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today and being part of the inner journey. We're here every week, every Wednesday, roughly about the 2:00 hour.
Something like that.
We'll try and get consistent one day. Yeah. I can't guarantee anything, but you know what? You will have fun. So Rob Morales, our CEO Network, Mary Van Alstyne.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you guys next week.